Animals. We really like them. They're really cool or really cute, kind of scary. Some have really cool features, like tigers have those little eyes on the back of their ears to deter predators, which also makes you think, what's hunting tigers? That's kind of scary. Um, but then there are some animals that we don't like. We're either scared of them, cockroaches, or or they're just disgusting cockroaches, and we want to get rid of them because we don't like them. And that's unfortunately human nature. If we don't like something, we want to get rid of it. We're just no, we don't want it. Cockroaches, goodbye. Don't need them. But today's video is about animals we don't like but need. It's a working title for my, and this thing here will be will be linked down in the description below, and all of those links that are in there. It's 13 pages about 7 animals that we hate, want to get rid of, but we can't. Well, technically 6, and then there's like a bonus animal. First, of course, as you saw, are wolves. Now, what got me thinking about making this video is, I don't know how many years ago it was, people were complaining about wolves being reintroduced to Yellowstone, which they've been being reintroduced into Yellowstone for like 70 years now, I think. We've been reintroducing, I say we, scientists or or whatever they're called, but I don't know what they're called. I didn't research the humans that do this. The humans who reintroduce animals have been reintroducing wolves to Yellowstone for years, and actually by I think 20 or 19 something or 2017 they were fully reestablished. And I remember a few years ago people on Facebook complaining like wolves are killing all the prey animals and stuff, and it's bad and we should get rid of them, we never should have reintroduced them. But we actually need them. They are very, very beneficial. They are a keystone species, and yes, you're gonna see me looking down at here because I have bad memory. So they're a keystone species, and they're actually not a huge threat to humans. They're a very, very small threat to humans, unless of course they have like rabies or disease or something like that. Um, but in the past 120 years, only 2 recorded human deaths were linked to wolves in North America, and there's a link to that, which will be in the description. Of the recorded deaths, it's not including rabies or other diseases. And the reasons why wolves can be a threat to humans are rabies, as I've mentioned, other diseases, predation, which is extremely rare, and habituation, which is where like humans feed the animals, which as a Floridian, I've never done this because I'm not stupid, but people feed gators all the time, so therefore gators attack humans because they associate humans with food. Not that humans are food, but that humans have food. So they'll attack. And the same thing happens with wolves. I don't know, humans like to feed things. They're like, oh wow, cute predator, here's some food. And don't think about the fact that they're going to associate, this funny looking hairless animal that walks on 2 legs gives food sometimes. So the next one that comes along, like, hey, food? No food? Alright, fuck you, bitch. And anyways, um, one of the reasons why wolves are very important to keep around is they balance the ecosystem. They reduce prey population, which sounds like a bad thing, but it's not, and I will explain that. And it causes prey animals to move around more instead of sticking into one place. If elk are not moving, um, they're going to constantly eat the grass and the vegetation in one spot, and that can damage the environment. So if they are causing prey animals to move more and more, like move around the area, and I'm assuming circles, I guess they migrate in circles, I don't know, um, then this area has a chance. It's the same reason why farmers, like cattle farmers, have multiple pastures. So they send the cows to, well, it's not the same exact reason, but it's a similar reason. They have the cows or the cattle, whatever, in one pasture until they eat down the grass, and then they move them to another pasture, and this pasture starts growing grass back, and they move them to another pasture, and this grass starts growing back. And it's the same thing for predators killing and scaring prey to move around. Because if there's more plant growth from prey moving around, it means more food and shelter for other animals such as songbirds and beavers. Aquatic life can also be more stable due to less grazing of elk near riverbanks, allowing for vegetation regrowth. And it also, this is a later point in here actually, if they move the prey around by preying on them, and the elk stop grazing near riverbanks, it's not going to erode the riverbanks because there's going to be plants there to keep the riverbanks more solid. Another reason why they are very good for the environment and why we should not get rid of them is biodiversity. Their presence creates richer diversity of plant and animal wildlife by preventing the overpopulation of prey animals. So it causes a better biodiverse environment. There's more animals because the prey animals aren't eating the homes of other smaller prey animals and stuff like that, and they're not eroding riverbanks. They're not inadvertently killing other animals by getting rid of their food and stuff like that. They're not getting overpopulated. So if they went extinct, it would trigger a trophic cascade. So I forgot to Google what a trophic cascade is, but a trophic cascade is an ecological, according to Google's AI overview, is a ecological event where changes to a top predator's population, like adding or removing them, cause ripple effects or cascades down the food web, significantly altering the abundance of and behavior of species at lower levels, from herbivores to plants, demonstrating the deep interconnectedness of ecosystems. So that is a trophic cascade. So if they went extinct, that would trigger a trophic cascade leading to prey wildlife population to explode, which would then lead to overgrazing, leading to erosion of riverbanks. There's the point that I was looking for. And of course, the other stuff like homes and food for other animals, the reduction of it. There would be a reduction in the biodiversity and bird population. Prey animals would begin encroaching more into human territory, which, I mean, humans kind of do that anyways by deforestation. But that's a different topic. But they would start, the population would get so big that they would start encroaching into our territory because they have nowhere else to go because they're overpopulated, because there's no there's no predator keeping them in check. Smaller predators such as coyotes would increase in population, which is a bad thing because it would lead to the drop in the population of smaller prey animals. And it would also create problems for scavenger animals such as eagles and bears, because there would be a loss of major food source, which is wolf kills. And that's the first animal on this list because it's like the first animal that a lot of people think of, or at least thought of a few years ago. I don't remember when it was. I think like 2017 is when everyone was freaking out like, we should have never introduced wolves to... Anyways, we didn't introduce them, we reintroduced them, and it's much healthier for it. That area, Yellowstone, is much healthier for it. Anyways, on to the next point. Gators and crocodiles. Now, I'm a Floridian, and I love gators. They're so freaking cute. My hic just came out, sorry about that. They're so freaking cute. They're ugly, yes, but they're ugly in a cute way, you know? So for this point, I picked out two species. Specifically, I picked out the American alligator because that's an animal I know, and I picked out the caiman, specifically the black caiman, but I do speak about the black caiman, the spectacled caiman, and the Yakari caiman a little bit. American alligators and crocodiles are keystone species, just like the wolves. And a keystone species, because I didn't define this in the paper either. I don't want to call it a paper. I don't know what to call it. Research, is a species on which other species in an ecosystem largely depend, such that if it were removed, the ecosystem would change drastically. That's from the dictionary. That is what a keystone species is. So, wolves, alligators, crocodiles, keystone species. So American alligators can pose a threat to human life, which is mostly, like, people think they are a bigger threat than they are, so it's mostly false because they're actually extremely shy. I was always taught that if you encroach on a mother alligator, then she'll attack. If you encroach on alligators during mating season, then they may attack. And if you feed them, like I said before with the wolves and with gators, if you feed them, they may attack you if you don't give them food. I'm trying to record a video for the first time in months, and I keep getting distracted. There's a possum or a raccoon trying to get in our house through our vents, so we got to tell the landlady about that. That's cool. Speaking of animals we want to get rid. No, I'm just kidding. Those are actually also two good animals to have around, but they're not on this list. Anyways, where was I? If you feed them, they associate humans with food. But if they're protecting their nest, they can become dangerous to humans. And again, in like breeding, they can be dangerous to humans. Like breeding season, they can be dangerous to humans. Mating season. So around 30 human deaths were recorded in Florida from, can you guess? 1948 to, I don't know when this study was. May 2nd, 2025. Okay, so from 1948 to May 2nd, 2025, when that link was published, not that link, when that study was published, there were only around 30 human deaths recorded in Florida from American alligators. One of the reasons why American alligators are important to the environment and to the earth is that they are called ecosystem engineers. And basically what that means is like their gator holes create small puddles that hold fish and water during drought seasons. So it keeps like the fish population going pretty good. Because if there's a drought and there's like a gator hole that has water in it, the fish can survive until it rains again. Their nesting mounds and their movement also keep areas open from overgrowing vegetation, preventing wetlands from drying out. I'm assuming because plants absorb water and water can't flow through grass very easily. Like it can, but like water always takes the path of least resistance. So if they're pushing down the grass, which like if you've been to Florida or live in Florida and you like go fishing or something out in the forest and you see like grass laid down on the edge of the water, that's called a gator lay, sometimes is what we call it. And that's where they're like moving from the water to the land and around, and that's what it's talking about. Their movement keeps the vegetation from overgrowing, therefore keeping the wetlands from drying out. They are also apex predators, which would sound like a bad thing to some people, but it's actually a good thing. They control the population of other animals such as snakes, turtles, and deer, keeping the food web balanced. I'm sorry, but eating turtles sounds painful. But I know they eat turtles. Like I've seen pictures of them eating turtles, but that sounds so freaking painful. But like, holy shit, they got a strong bite. Which, like, we know they have a strong bite. They just can't open their mouths if you're holding them. But like a crunchy, what is it? A crunchy ravioli for gators. Anyways, they deter predators like raccoons from nesting wading birds too, therefore keeping the wading bird population up. The caiman are also a keystone species. They're very important to South America. They did almost go extinct. I'm going to talk about that first. They did almost go extinct when, as I put it, human greed led to the overhunting of caiman for their leather. Specifically, I think the black caiman. Yeah, the black caiman. Between 1940 and 1970, black caiman were poached for their skin, and some sources say that it was a 99% drop in population, which is a scary drop in any animal's population. Like imagine a 99% drop in human population or in wolf population. I don't think it was a 99% drop, but it was a huge drop and it did a lot of damage. Like imagine the damage that this did. People loved the leather from black caiman, and I think from the spectacled caiman as well. So people hunted them, and I think to this day, like people still poach them, which is obviously illegal, but people still poach them for their skin. So caiman do pose a threat to human life and more so to their safety in South America because their population did kind of boom coming back, which is good. Black caiman are large enough to be considered an apex predator. I almost said Apex Legend. I haven't played that game in forever. But they can be considered an apex predator and pose a threat to humans in South America. Other smaller species like the yacare and the spectacled caiman, which I have mentioned, are less of a threat but still potentially dangerous because they do still have teeth and can be angry. Black caiman are responsible for multiple deaths of humans per year. Some sources say between 2 and 18 deaths per year, and I've put up a link, which again, this will be linked in the description. I put up a link showing where it says like 2 to 18 deaths per year. Recorded deaths. These are all recorded deaths. Like, there's one animal where the recorded deaths do not make sense, and I'll get to that. So like I said, they almost went extinct because they were hunted, they were poached for their skin. They are good for the ecosystem. They balance the ecosystem, and they are also ecosystem engineers. They regulate the populations of fish and insects and small animals. And just like the American alligators, their movement and their gator holes create channels of open water for other aquatic life to survive during droughts. They keep freshwater ponds from being overgrown by vegetation, and they are good for nutrient cycling, which is something I've never heard of before. Fun fact in the middle of the video, I used to want to be a scientist, specifically a marine biologist, and I wanted to specifically study either sharks or trenches, but then I developed the fear of drowning, because I almost drowned twice. Anyways, so I love all this sciencey stuff. I like researching. I've never researched before, which I mentioned in my previous video, and I've mentioned before that I've never researched before because I didn't have to in school. Like, I was never taught to in school. So I was going into this blind. All I knew is Google is not a source. That's all I knew. So, like I said, they're good for nutrient cycling, which, well, what does that mean? Nutrient cycling, or biogeochemical cycling, is the continuous movement and recycling of essential elements like carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus between living organisms, biotic, and the non-living environment, abiotic, air, soil, water, and the ecosystem. Cool. You learn something new every day. Caiman are linked to the base of the food web as their excrement feeds plankton, which in turn feeds other aquatic life. The health of both American alligators and caiman reflect the overall health of their habitats, which I'm pretty sure is the same for all these animals on this list. You know, if the American alligators are healthy and the population is healthy, then the ecosystem is healthy and the population is healthy, most likely. Same with some bugs that are on here, which I'm not too particularly excited about. One thing, which if you watched my last video, you know, cockroaches. I hate cockroaches. Anyways, if they went extinct, there would be catastrophic shifts in the river and wetland ecosystems because, like I mentioned before, they keep the population in check, and their movement and gator holes keep vegetation from overgrowing, which keeps wetlands wet and not dry, and keeps the gator holes keep aquatic life living through droughts. So if they went extinct, or even if their population dipped way too much, there would be catastrophic shifts in the river and wetland ecosystems. There would be overpopulation of prey, not overpopulation. And there would be overgrowth of plant life, which would choke waterways. Gators and crocodiles are important, and I know we fear them. Fun fact, my favorite crocodile is the gharial. The gharial. Fucking love those things. They're so fucking ugly. They're so cute. It's my favorite. Anyways, sharks. Guess what they are? They're keystone species. And my favorite shark, I have a lot of favorite sharks. My favorite shark is probably the sand tiger shark, followed closely by the mako. The makos are just so cute. Anyways, they're a keystone species. They actually pose a very low threat to human life. Annual worldwide average, now the averages for the previous animals were in like one country or one state and stuff like that. The annual worldwide average is 6 to 10 deaths. Humans are actually a greater threat to sharks than sharks are to humans. Like the mako shark, actually. Shark fin soup. They were hunted damn near to death for their fins to make soup. I didn't know that. I used to eat mako shark jerky. Smelly as hell, but so delicious. And then like a year later, I learned that their population was actually in decline. I was like, oh shit. My bad. But I don't know how they're doing now. I don't talk about any specific sharks. I just research sharks in general. And they're good for the environment, obviously, as they are a keystone species. They regulate prey population by hunting sick, weak, and overabundant fish and mammals. They keep the population down and the vegetation growth up. By keeping sea turtle population down, it helps to keep seagrass beds and coral reefs from being destroyed. And they are also good for nutrient cycling. Due to their migratory behaviors, when they move from deep water to shallow water to deep water to shallow water, they move nutrients between the shallow and deep waters. And their feces, again, feeds phytoplankton, thus producing oxygen and lowering, I almost said OCT. I don't know what that means. CO2. I have not figured out how to say this word. Carbon sequestration. That's the best you're getting. When sharks die, they sink, keeping carbon out of the atmosphere. So they sink low into the water where the carbon can't come up out of the water into the atmosphere and, do bad things. If they went extinct, the prey population would explode and seagrass beds would be destroyed and the ecosystem would collapse. They are very, very important. Oh, by the way, if you do click the link to look at this paper, it's not a paper, this research, to see the links and stuff, if you have arachnophobia, there is a picture of a spider. I think it's cute, but I understand people have arachnophobia. I'm terrified of cockroaches, and there's a picture of a cockroach in here, which I have to look at here in a second, which is great. But we're not to cockroaches yet. We are to spiders, and I feel like a lot of people are going to be fucking mad about that. They're like, oh, spiders. Fuck spiders. But we actually need them, and they are one of the most important animals, and yes, they are animals, on this list. And you'll see why here in a minute. So spiders are good for pest control and the ecosystem. They pose an extremely small threat to human life. This is the animal I was talking about earlier. You would think with Australia existing, there would be more human deaths a year, but there's not. They pose an extremely small threat to human life. There are less than 10 annual recorded deaths per year, even though Australia exists. Yeah, less than 10 deaths a year with the black widow and the huntsman spider and the brown recluse all existing, and the Brazilian wandering spider existing, all of those, less than 10 deaths a year. Annual, recorded deaths. And I think that's worldwide. So like I said, they're good for pest control. They feed on a plethora, I don't know if I'm using that word right, but they feed on a plethora of smaller insects like aphids, caterpillars, and mosquitoes, which is actually good for farmers. They protect plants and even humans by eating these insects. They balance the ecosystem. They prevent the overpopulation and even the extinction of insects and other animals. They are a crucial food supply for birds, reptiles, and even other spiders, and they help pollination. I did not know this until I researched it. I knew they were important for pest control, but I didn't know that they helped with pollination. They are not themselves pollinators, but they help with pollination by eating destructive insects and allowing pollinators to do their work. And sometimes they spread pollen while hunting, because they'll go through flowers and stuff like that. They're good for biodiversity. A healthy population of spiders signals a healthy environment. So if you have spiders in your house, you have a healthy environment. Also, don't kill them. They're eating other bugs like cockroaches. Unless it's a black widow or a brown recluse, kill it. But if you got a brown house spider or a wolf spider, they're good to keep around. Just don't piss them off, But that's just me. If you're scared of spiders, I totally understand. They're good for the soil health. They indirectly reduce plant damage and soil health by eating pests. Eating pests and keeping plants healthy keeps the soil healthy, which again helps farmers. If they went extinct, here's why they're one of the most important animals on this list. If they went extinct, pest insect population would explode, leading to crop loss and famine, and an increase in insect-borne diseases because again they eat mosquitoes, and other insects like the flies that what are they called, the tsetse flies, I think. I'm pretty sure there's, spiders that eat those. And then humans would struggle a bit, but would most likely survive it through the use of chemical pesticides for crops. But we all know chemical pesticides are not the best. And now, on to cockroaches. Okay. Alright, just avoid the picture. Alright! Cockroaches! Yay! We need them! We can't get rid of them! This is another reason why I made this list and why I'm making this video, because I was like, cockroaches need to go. We don't need them. Turns out we do, because they're decomposers. Who'da thunk? The most disgusting animal on earth is a decomposer. They're not a direct threat to humans, however, they still are a threat to health. I myself, I have asthma, and if you are around a bunch of cockroaches, you can make your asthma and allergies worse, which I have both because I'm a Floridian, and you can't be a Floridian without having allergies to literally everything. Cockroaches cannot directly kill humans, but they do spread diseases like typhoid. Call them Mary. They do carry bacteria like E. coli and Salmonella. People who have cockroaches for pets, what do you do? No, I'm just kidding. Those are clean. But are you okay? Who hurt you? They can affect allergies and asthma, like I said. Although rare, cockroaches can bite, which I have actually been bitten by cockroaches before, like once or twice. They can bite, which can lead to infection, and their legs can also scratch you, which can again lead to infection. However, they are good for the environment because, as I said, they are decomposers, and they're good for nutrient recycling. They eat decaying leaves and wood and other organic material, which releases trapped nitrogen and fertilize the soil through their feces. Yay. They're good for the ecosystem, as they are a food source for other animals such as birds, reptiles, and small mammals. They serve both as predator and prey. They're fucking pollinators. Not all of them. And pardon my language. But I am an adult and my videos are not for children, so. They're pollinators. They're fucking pollinators. Some of them are. Certain tropical cockroaches help pollinate plants, but not all of them pollinate plants. They are an important part of the biomass in rainforests, and some people actually farm cockroaches because there are actually benefits. They're farmed for medicine in China for ulcers and burns. They're farmed for high protein feed for livestock, which, okay, fair. Ladies and men, and those in between who wear makeup. They're farmed for cosmetics. So just know you're possibly putting cockroach dust on your face. Which, if that's fine by you, then that's fine by you. But I mean, ew. Just get products that don't use cockroaches. Anyways, they're also farmed for food waste, and there's actually places, I can't remember where it is, it's probably in China or somewhere in Asia, where you can rent a hotel room and you can turn on a certain light switch in the mirror in like the bathroom and you can see a cockroach farm on the other side. No thank you. That is literal hell on earth. But you do you, boo-boo. If you like that, go ahead. You have your fun with cockroaches. I'm gonna stay over here with my spiders. Okay, I love spiders. I want a pet spider so bad. I want a Mexican redknee named Pablo. Anyways, if they went extinct, it would negatively impact the forest health at leaving piles of undecomposed debris, which would be no bueno because, like I mentioned earlier, it releases nitrogen. Yeah, it releases nitrogen and fertilizes the soil through their poop. And if they die, which they can't because we literally can't nuke them because they would survive and we wouldn't. If they die, then stuff stops getting decomposed and the earth becomes a giant trash pile with trapped nitrogen and shit like that. Last but not least, before the honorable mention, this one's gonna piss a lot of people off. It pisses me off too. Mosquitoes are very, 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 very important. However, they are the worst animal on this list. That is because they pose a massive threat to human life. They kill around 725,000 to 1 million people per year through diseases like dengue, malaria, yellow fever, Zika, and more. But only the females bite, and that leads me into why they're actually good. The males are pollinators. Not major pollinators, but they are pollinators, as they drink only plant juices and nectar. They're also a food source for fish, birds, frogs, bats, and more. They eat mosquitoes and mosquito larvae. They actually impact caribou migration. Caribou migrate to windier areas to avoid mosquitoes, which in turn, sorry, I'm dyslexic, prevents overgrazing of areas, which allows for plant regrowth. If they went extinct, it would eliminate the diseases mentioned, which would be good, but it would disrupt the ecosystems. There's a specialized fish called the mosquito fish, which eats, as the name implies, mosquitoes, and it would force a dietary change in that animal. And the example I have listed is the pacu piranha, which is ironically my favorite piranha. They eat fruits and nuts that fall out of the trees. And I think it was from deforestation. They started eating nuts of a different kind, if you catch my drift, because their nuts from trees weren't falling in the water, and people were bathing or fishing in the water, specifically men. And they were like, "Oh, look, a nut," and technically they were right. And just think, pacu piranha have human-like teeth because they're meant for biting shells and stuff. So pacu piranha had a forced dietary change, and the same thing would happen to mosquito fish if mosquitoes went extinct. And then, of course, as I mentioned, they impact caribou migration by forcing them to go to windier areas to get away from mosquitoes. But if there were no mosquitoes, then the caribou would just stay in one place, and much like the elk in Yellowstone, would just destroy that environment by just constantly eating every single plant there because they don't have to move anymore because there's no mosquitoes. Finally, the honorable mention, love bugs. We actually kind of need them. But not really. They have like the least impact if they went extinct. But as I'll mention later, it would actually be a bad sign if they went extinct. Fun fact, UF did not actually create them. They're actually native to South America, I think? Central America. Love bugs are native to Central America and actually came up to Florida through Texas and then anyways. I hate them though. I fucking hate them. Everyone does. They chip the paint on your cars. They're fucking annoying twice a year. But they are good because they're decomposers, specifically their larvae. They pose zero threat to humans. They're just annoying twice a year. And like I said, they're decomposers. Their larvae feed on organic debris, which break it down and return nutrients to the soil, much like cockroaches do love bugs. Well, their larva does. They are also a food source for robin and quail and and invertebrates that eat larvae. They're also pollinators. Not huge pollinators, but they are pollinators. As adults feed on nectar from clover and other plants, which lead to pollination. However, if they went extinct, there would be no global catastrophe like a famine, like if bees or spiders went extinct. I wonder if bees and spiders went extinct at the same time, if we would just die. Probably. Um, there would be cleaner cars if love bugs went extinct. There would be a minor food web shift, and it would be a warning of environmental decline, because if one animal, no matter how insignificant it is, starts disappearing, something is wrong. That's why people get worried when animals go extinct. It's not just sad that what was it, the white rhino or the black rhino went extinct? It's not just sad. There's something wrong. Whether it's poaching, overhunting, or something is wrong with the environment, with the ecosystem. Um, but yeah, that's my video. I'm trying to make it as entertaining as possible, and I'm trying to keep it short. I've been recording for 51 minutes and 53 seconds. But I was distracted a few times by my cat and a possum or raccoon trying to get in the house. So, yeah. But yeah, I wanted to do this because I thought it would be interesting, and I like making list videos. I know I wasn't looking at the camera very much. I was reading and stuff. I probably should have read it and like rehearsed more, but I wanted to get this video out. So I'll see you in the next video. Don't know what it's going to be about. Don't know what it's going to be. I still can't stream because my schedule is all over the place, but I'll be back, I promise. And yeah, see you in the next video. There's no predator keeping them in check. Boy! Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Do not, don't you dare go. Get it out of the bag. Stop. Anyways,